Part 2 to before we get out of here. Part 1 down below. I think she has yet to feel much consequence. I think that will probably begin when we have to tell the kids, but she has spent the past 7 months convincing herself that this will be better for the kids. I think that is the last hurdle she had to clear. She convinced herself early in those 7 months this would be better for her. I think she thinks she has already faced all of the negative stuff, or that she is prepared and ready for it in her mind. Her grandparents, although upset, aren't treating her any different and are back to babying her. Her father is disappointed and loves her but wants little to do with her right now and can't believe this is his daughter based upon how she was raised. Her mom passed away about 20 years ago. Her sister is extremely disappointed but is still doing things with her at the request of their grandparents. And her brother-in-law is pretty much done with her for good. It's a mixed bag on that side, very small family but tight-knit, so the divide has caused some conflict amongst themselves as well. I was told by her father that when she was young and when he and her mother would try to discipline her, her grandmother would come and bail her out and make her feel better. No consequences. As for friends, she has a few helping her. Most don't know the extent of what she did but an idea, but for the most part believe she was just not happy. Her main friend helping her is one that has had several affairs herself. The rest of this support group are either divorced and or have been. She has crafted it this way on purpose, as you can imagine. I believe it will eventually hit her, but who knows how long it will take. Months, years, etc. She is so hardened by this in her opinion and mind, very stubborn in general and strong-willed when it comes to her decisions in her mind. She is one that hates to admit when she's wrong and might escape feeling really bad about this for a long time just to prove she isn't wrong. To herself, my focus in on the kids and keeping this house for them. One thing I go in and out of is being somewhat nice, which I have been. I talk to her about the kids and meals each day, say good morning and good night. Or do I just go to the extreme bare minimum of talk? Trying to go out with my head held high and acting myself, but wondering if it would help myself more to not treat her bad but just go almost unavailable outside of kids' convo. Like I said, we still talk about meals and very little else. She asked me at one point while we were alone in the kitchen, "Is there anything you want to talk about?" I said nope and just kept on doing what I was doing. No regrets either, felt good. One thing I have debated on doing, but it would seem out of character for me and more out of spite, is to reach out to her best friend who was helping me in the early stages and tell her, "I hope you have seen how destructive affairs can be, and I hope you discontinue your own affairs for the sake of your children and your husband so you can be someone they look up to through and through." Her best friend is also Catholic but has been in a few affairs over the past few years and even was contemplating leaving her husband in the spring of 16 and maybe even more recently, but I'm not sure on that. I appreciated her help through the first few months, but I stopped talking to her once I realized that she is going to be loyal to her best friend no matter what, and she was someone they could confide in each other about and feel good about themselves and justify the affairs they were carrying on. She also accused me of making reconciliation difficult because I told people in the family about the affair and it was really a matter of just us two, and telling on her was a little much. She said she wouldn't have had to be deceitful and lie to her family and friends over the past 7 months if I hadn't have told them. She said one good thing to come out of this, however, was now they know how judgmental her family can be and have shown their true colors. Yup, my fault for trying to save the marriage and expose it, thanks. Doesn't serve my main purpose now to do everything for my kids and get primary custody along with keeping them in our current house. But at times it would feel good to almost tell her off, but wonder if it would make me feel worse in the long run. The first friend of the court hearing got delayed because her lawyer came on board late in the process and requested the delay. This is going to be a long next 6 months if we have to go the full term of the divorce waiting period in this state. Now that it's over, I just want it to go by as soon as possible so I don't have to be reminded every day of the betrayal. I have been working more towards detachment. At first, I wanted to be really nice and cordial, but after looking back at the evidence and the messages between them as I assemble them for possible use, it just gets me more and more upset at what she caused. And while I won't be mean, my conversations have been limited to this over the past few days. Have a good one as I fly out the door. Are you getting the kids from school or am I in the afternoon? And good night at night as I walk past the room and into the living room to begin my nightly activities after the kids go to bed. She just called me on the phone to remind me that she needs access to our shared accounts, etc. Then she goes into a bit about how we still need to be respectful to each other, especially for the kids' benefit. I am just saying okay, I understand, and finally just said you don't have to tell me. As in I understand, not in a mean voice. She said if she is being mean or disrespectful, I need to pull her aside and let her know because she is not doing it on purpose. Trust me, I'm not being mean by any stretch, but I'm trying to avoid being around her and only talking to her about what is necessary to talk about, kids and what to do with kids for fun on weekend, etc. Today is my dad's birthday. I wanted to take the kids over there to drop off some homemade cards and have them spend time with Grandma and Grandpa, but without her. However, I still have a good relationship with her family and most openly want me to visit, etc. Should I feel bad about not inviting her along? I guess I'll just ask my parents, but they have taken my lead on all of this and probably wouldn't mind either way, but it won't hurt to ask what they actually want. They were still very supportive of her up until they last spoke on Christmas about being there to talk if she needed, even knowing everything she had done. I haven't asked anyone to do anything for me, to friend on FB, be nasty, cold, etc. A few people wanted to give her a piece of their mind, especially my best friend. We are the godparents of their son and he wanted to tell her how bad of choice they made in it, but I didn't think it was worth it. A family member that has helped me through the process said it's not my place to hold them back, but it would be best served after the D. Her father and his wife want to keep the relationship as much as the same as possible. Same with her brother-in-law. Her sister is indifferent and her grandparents I'm sure will change because even though they hate this and what she has done, they still coddle her just as they have her entire life. She has experienced some discomfort with her affair and lying to all of them for 7 months, but not enough to make a dent because she still has her grandparents, second set of parents essentially, and her sister is following the orders from the grandma to stay involved. Her dad will come around eventually I'm sure, it's his own flesh and blood, but at this point wants little to do with her because of how she betrayed him deeply after their heart-to-heart talk in October and continued to deceive him. It will be interesting, that is for sure. Sucks that I have felt all of the pain and discomfort, most of it anyway up until this point. She is so deep in her mind that she has done very little wrong, and this is best to make her happy and healthy that she could care less what anyone else says, especially finding comfort with her best friend who stays with her husband but cheats behind his back. At first, her family was on board with giving her the cold shoulder collectively, but understandably they grew weary of this over time and have their own lives and problem to lead. That is why I should have taken a more active role in the discomfort process, and now that I'm doing it, it's still good for me but hardly makes a difference for her other than pissing her off and making it seem even more justified on her affair and her decision to go forward with the divorce process, retain lawyer, sign papers, etc. I'm going for the house when it comes to that part of the case. She told her dad she didn't want it, and it was clear that when the affair was still in play, she was house hunting with the other man. I'm Michigan, it's a 6-month waiting period to get the divorce finalized. It's going to be an uphill battle to keep the house, and I'll have to milk my retirement for it to pay her the equity, but counselor said it was important to keep house for kids to at least keep that normalcy. Our house was built just 3 years ago. Our dream house we had worked our lives for. Now that we are in the process of divorce, my fight continues, but for the 3 of us now instead of the 4. Just can't wait for it to be over now. I'm using the things that hurt me before to supply anger and focus, but like others have said, the mistake I'm making now is still being a detective. It helped supply info for my case, but now that it's in motion, the info is more harm than good. If my tale is an example to help others, so be it. I'll be fine. I have always, eventually, persevered in life with will and hard work. I just put too much of that into a losing battle for too long here. She is extremely strong-willed in a lot of ways for the wrong reasons. My counselor saw that in just 3 sessions, that she is very strong in that sense, but strong in defending and justifying her actions to herself, really all her life. She hates, and I mean hates being wrong. It must be something related to childhood as well. When she would finally figure out she was wrong with some things during the real marriage, it would bring her to almost tears sometimes. Even when, if she figures out she was so wrong during all of these, it will be tough for her to admit because of her stubbornness and unwillingness to want to be wrong. Her own family that was helping me throughout the past year with support said the same, and I already knew it, that in the early stages she knew she was wrong but would never admit it because, never admits she is wrong, said one family member. When she would always say she was unhappy and didn't know what she wanted to do with her life, I would recommend some things, including doing things for others and putting others ahead of yourself, as a gentle nudge to not be mean at her self-centeredness, but to point her in a direction of how I was raised and why it was always so easy for me to be happy every day. My parents taught me you do something for someone and never expect anything in return. You do it because it needs to be done or for the right reasons. Something I talked to my counselor about was how someone could be so insecure but so self-centered, so judgmental about things she hates that people do but do many of the same things herself. Failed the test today, but honestly couldn't see any way around it right now. I had the kids make homemade birthday cards for my dad and we were about to head out the door. I told the wife we would be back in a bit and she said, oh, I was going to go too. I didn't say anything but couldn't bring myself to say with her standing there in front of me with my kids next to me, no, it would be better if you didn't. I also need to talk to my parents to see what they want as well. They treated her like they would any normal day. They have followed my lead and would do as I would them to do, but to this point, we really haven't talked about that, and when she's over their kind nature just takes over on autopilot. I'm going to go to their house before work tomorrow and have a talk to them about this and see how they actually feel. It will get to the point soon enough when I can tell her no openly, but since the kids don't know yet, I couldn't do it in front of them today. My parents, especially my mom, still treat her with compassion and they know everything. I am going to go there before work tomorrow and talk with them about future events and see how they feel. I know they are devastated by this but have followed my lead. Maybe I did a poor job of explaining how I felt and what I am doing now in my own dealings with her. I always think I know what my parents are going to say, and then they say something that I wasn't expecting that has a good effect and is wise. I haven't talked to them as much as I should. That could be an issue as well. I hadn't talked to them in person before today since I first told them the divorce was a sure thing and the papers were filed 2 weeks ago. I also think she likes going because it's just part of her split personality. She loves my parents and she has convinced herself so well she did nothing really wrong and just followed her own heart that she must think there's nothing wrong with going over there and gets the benefit of feeding off of the good vibes my parents bring. Next time, I'll have a better plan in place, and I realize I need to talk to my parents more. We have one of those relationships that we are so close that we cannot talk for 3 weeks, and when we see each other, it's like we saw each other yesterday. I'm a big man of faith and a lifelong Catholic, but like anyone I think, there's a lot of things I don't agree with in the church and hold my own personal beliefs with God. She was in a great mood this morning and happy, different from the last few days of unhappy and cold. I think I've mentioned this before, but now as I see her for who she is and the things that she has done to me cause anger instead of pain. It makes my days a bit more difficult when she acts happy. Not a big difference, but it's almost when she's being a bee. It's easier for me to just go on my way and see how different we are and how we handle life. Recently, when she has been happy, it's when she was in contact or about to go see her BF. No idea if she's still in contact with him. They would have to be incredibly careful about it, and I believe he has reconciled with his wife for now, and even if he's still planning on going back for more with my STBX, he's going to wait till things cool down. He was a pro at this, and I'm sure this isn't his first girlfriend outside of marriage and won't be his last. My STBX may also be happy because she was talking to her new friend. With her new friend, I'm at the stage where I joke about it with my brother and friends now more than anything. It doesn't have the same effect as the affair with her lover had, and that part feels good. We get a kick out of commenting on the guy's Facebook pictures. Good-looking face, and I've seen less wrinkles in a crinkled-up newspaper than on that dude's forehead. The church aspect is low on the priority scale right now. Had a talk with my brother on family detachment tonight. All he said was, "Don't get me drinking around her." Things said will never be forgotten, lol. My mom and dad were going to talk tonight, and I'm going to touch base with them. As for the kids, we were waiting for an initial ruling on custody arrangements, so we have a better idea, but if this goes on for too long, we'll have to tell them before that. My 99 appointment is tomorrow, and I'm going to talk about how and when to tell the kids with her along with the family detachment process. This morning is when I started to embrace that I'm going to have to make this stand on my own. With loving support from those that care, but it will have to be me that sticks my neck out and make the charge on the battlefield. It's kind of exhilarating. She told her father and everyone else, there's no doubt in her mind that it's over, and she just couldn't see why I could not wrap my head around it, that she doesn't love me anymore and there's no chance. I still do love her, but I have moved on from the ship that she will come around during this current relationship. She has convinced herself that she would be much happier without me, even if she cannot be with her soulmate, and she convinced herself that she would be a better mother if she moved on and was happier and healthier. I tried for 7 months and gave it everything I had, withstanding what everyone was telling me was the case and still trying to chart my own course, but kept getting deeper and deeper in emotional debt and no closer to having her come around. Not a great night internally, and I will explain why. I have been 180 focused this month, and it has got me in a good place, well, the best place I can be in for the situation. She has been trying to communicate with me over the last few weeks, wanting to talk about splitting up assets, just talking about dinners. When to tell the kids, she wants to tag along to my next counseling meeting so she can get the plan my counselor has been laying out for me with the kids. Through all of this, I have been avoiding her, keeping it short and just being direct to the point with everything. Kids, dinner and kids pick up from school arrangements, and that's about it, with maybe some laundry and weekend plans for what we want to do with the kids in between. Like I was telling my cousin today, some days I can go less than 9 total words with her. She gets upset when I'm making decisions without consulting her. My counselor said it's because she knows she can no longer control me. There's a lot more that I can explain, but tonight was a good microcosm and something that pisses me off emotionally. She came home tonight after her church planning meeting and said we needed to talk for a bit. I said okay. She started to tear up and said that our nephew knows about the divorce and she's afraid that the kids are going to find out indirectly. So, she wants to go to my counselor next week to go over the process. She then said she left early to go to the meeting because she wanted to meet with our priest. She said she had a really rough day and started crying more and said that Father Tom made her feel better. He always does since he's a good friend of hers. Then this is where it goes into where it hurts for me still. She says we need to work on our communication and that we will have to work together for many years to come because of the kids, and she wants me to assure her that that will be the case, and I said of course, I will do what's best for the kids when it involves all of us. Through this entire month, it's like she expects for us to be friends. Tonight, she outright said it. She was hoping that we can be or still be friends through this. I didn't answer, I just looked at her and she said, "Oh, I guess that's your answer then." She said, "I know you are angry, but I just know this is what is best in my heart to go through with this, and that we will all be better off and eventually the kids will be as well." I talked to someone in my central support circle after this, and I told her what I was thinking in my head when she asked if we can be friends. I was thinking that no, you were my friend, my best friend, and you still could have been, but sadly that's not my fault. No, I cannot be friends with you, not because I hate you but because you broke apart the thing I loved most on this earth, our marriage. She said I should have told Betsy that, but I know that's anti-180. I just kept a straight face through the entire conversation as she cried and reaffirmed what she was concerned about, so I knew how to proceed, that she is worried about the kids finding out through other people first. I said okay, I will ask my counselor and go from there. I do not like talking to her about these things because a lot of it is part of my 180 plan, but also because she can talk about most of it, other than tonight, without emotion and like it's a business transaction. I don't want to deal with that. Someone that thinks we can still be only friends. This is why I avoid her. I'm focused and doing fine, but a continued reminder of how she thinks this is the best in her heart and the fact that she thinks I'm a friend. I've been friend zoned before and that's okay, but from someone I was trying to pick up in high school, not from my wife who I dedicated 17 years of my life to. On another note, it was our daughter's birthday party on Sunday. My brother was in town from out of state. She went to hug him and he held his hand up to stop it and then extended it to shake her hand. As for my parents, my mom said bye to her, wanted to leave without a hug, embrace. My dad was almost out the door and she ran over to the door to give them both a hug before they left. One of the things that I didn't think everyone had pegged, even though I had heard it a lot from people in my own most trusted circle, is that I need to not involve her family as much in the process of trying to save it from June through December. In business, in my personal life outside of the marriage, and with my side ventures, I have made living out of planning and strategizing the perfect scenarios and then executing with a lot of success, having backup plans when the first things fail, having tricks up my sleeve, etc. I've had a lot of success even when people told me I was crazy or it's never going to work. I took this strategy to the marriage saving plan and involved a network of people that I thought would help me snap her out of it. As at least a few of you had said, this wasn't going to turn out well. I must say, even to this day, I have some allies that I know I can trust forever, some that just whittled away because it's not worth their time anymore, and some that were playing both sides, even more so, her side. This was a good learning experience for me in that aspect as well. I had the perfect battle plan in my mind, and when it all came together to strike, it had minimal impact. That's when I truly learned that no matter what was said to her, the emotion of the affair and the internal issues that have pushed everything away was far too strong and eventually withstood strike. I understand all of that now, but the sad part is that I now see even more why she is the way she is. The family members, not all by any means, in her life that supported this way of life for selfishness, almost no consequences if any at all, and coddle that are doing the same to this day and don't even understand that it's the worst thing for her. Not the divorce, but the lack of tough love and endurance in that aspect. It's sad to see, but there's nothing that I can do about it now. Most of my days are pretty good now. I no longer really want her as I have replaced any time. I think of that with thoughts of what she did to me over a year's time. But I do get sad when I think about the notion of having one wife for life, the mother of my children. Heartbroken over the loss of the ideal versus the loss of the person, since she is not the person I fell in love with anymore. This is going to be a huge battle, but one that I'm ready to take on when it's just me and the kids. My son is a carbon copy of me in terms of demeanor and just about everything else. That, as you would probably say, will be an issue with the nice guy stuff, so we are working on that already. For my daughter, that's where I will have to walk a fine line for now and go deeper into when it's just me and the kids. She is a carbon copy of my wife. Emotions change on a dime, blames others or other things for mistakes or things she did wrong. You made me do that. I have to walk a fine line so I keep her sane and not go overboard in the current situation. But once the time is split between us or I have primary custody, then I can start to really implement things my counselor is helping me with to get her in tune with what should be reality and consequences, and above all else, personal responsibility. I am cordial since we have to live together for the next 5 or so months still, and we have the kids at home, but other than that, I probably on average say 7 to 10 words to her a day, which involve who's picking up the kids being the only real conversation we have each day, around 4 p.m. Your wife is so far gone she's not even ashamed or embarrassed with her scandalous behaviors, dead on. She has always said that the affair had nothing to do with our problems in marriage. She shifted everything onto me, but her contradictions were so bad. From I am too accommodating to I didn't show love to why didn't I do this before to it wouldn't have mattered. She's resigned to her actions as being fate, again dead on. She believes she will be much happier moving on and that it's the best for her and for the kids because she will be happier and healthier. She told the other man straight up that they were meant to be soulmates and a million other things to that point. I have been 180ing pretty well for about a month now. Even when she tries to engage in conversation, I deflect, give short answers, and either act disinterested until she leaves the room or I leave the room. The latest conversation about her wanting to be friends after this took the cake. I still have a lot of things that bring back good memories, and those hurt, but to be honest, I can't even look her in the face anymore without feeling disdain for what she had done for almost a year and what she continues to do. I have no proof or really even care to find out what she is doing now, but she either took a break with the married man, her soulmate, until things cools down, or she has 100% moved on to the next guy who was their secret messenger and now maybe more than a friend, as the rebound guy. I don't even look at her Pinterest account anymore, just a sad case of someone trying to convince themselves what they did and are doing is totally right and how good of a person she is. I'll never forget the pin, forget the exact words, but it's about her having a heart of gold and a great soul. So far gone that even the little logic she had months ago is now gone. It actually hurt that she could think we could be just friends, but I wrote it off for what it is, what she is, and oh well, got to live with it, nothing I can do to change it. It is awkward but also empowering to look at her in this new light, not my wife anymore but the person that ruined my dreams of what I thought our lives would be like as a family forever. Talks have been short and to the point. She thinks I'm being mean, but I'm not. As my counselor has said, she is probably madder than anything that she has no control over me anymore. So, to compensate, she gets on her phone and texts and does whatever with whomever during the day, don't even really think about it much anymore and just assume she's having the time of her life while she's supposed to be working. Only part that's hard to combat emotionally is when she is on the phone and laughing and giggling, etc. I just honestly think she was able to pull the wool over his eyes by having him feeling sorry for her like she can do almost anyone. I think in a way she spun me as the bad guy, especially with his comment about me having her served. Thing is that this guy is one of the level-headed humans I know, but still think she must have gotten to him. Here's an excerpt from an email to me that leads me to believe my message wasn't heard clearly. I was taken aback when I met with, because she told me that you were going to serve papers on her for a divorce. I remember you telling me that you would do anything to save the marriage. Things had obviously happened that I was not aware of. I believe that, was open and honest in meeting with me. I also believe that emotionally she is a wreck and very confused. My advice to her was to lie low for 2 weeks, do a lot of thinking and praying, and then come back and see me. Thing is, she used those 2 weeks to catch up legally and think of questions to ask OM and how she could meet him secretly again. I updated father on all of this but never got a response via email back. For my wife or soon-to-be ex, she is long gone. The strength of the foundation is gone and the deepness of her fantasy was the deepest imaginable, with planning a life together forever, looking at homes together for months, etc. She is pretty much happy with the decision to divorce and cannot wait for it to be over as far as I can tell, as she moves full speed ahead with filling out paperwork, getting accounts in order. I'm working with a relative that is going through the same thing. He's a few months behind me, so I'm trying to get him there quicker than I got there to eliminate some of the pain and unneeded heartache. The biggest kick the plums for both of us is that both of our spouses are handling this like a business transaction. No emotion, just moving steadily along. I am as well, but 17 years of planning, living, growing and being there for each other out the window in a year, and she cannot get to the finish line fast enough. Again, I want this to be over as soon as possible for everyone involved, but I never wanted this. But the biggest realization I had was understanding I could not want it all I want, but I had no control over the decisions that doomed us over the past year. She can say, she tried to tell me what was wrong and we grew apart and we aren't compatible. But it's hard to rationalize that and measure against when the year before she was saying how she's looking forward to the next 100 years together and loves me more than anything. Telling family, friends I was there to keep her grounded and keep her sane. I really don't know what to believe, but I do believe what has come from her month over the past year is not as truthful as what she told me over the 17 before that. At least I'll tell myself that, not to hold on to what could have been, but to know that at least for a majority of our lives together, it was real. The person she has lied to most is herself. Hard to believe that any person could do and act the way she is but make herself believe this is what is right and minimize the affair down to not even a supporting cast member in the movie but an extra on the set. But you are right, she is still lying to those that care to listen, to enable and to validate. My kids deserve better than this. Someone that not only is there for the kids obviously, which she is trying to do now, but someone who values the concept of family, honesty and integrity above self-wants, and with the rationale to realize that. Finally got word on dates from the court yesterday. Man, is this going to be a long process. Friend of the court stuff comes up fairly quick next month, but the pro-con hearing isn't scheduled until June 26th. I'm doing my best at work and with the kids and trying to live life, but definitely slanting it towards spending as much time as possible as I can with the kids. She is living life as if nothing is different because she feels that no matter what the custody is going to be 50/50. She seems to be falling back into some habits that she gave up over the last month as well. Constant texting at home. She's going to a hockey game tonight about 2 hours away. Last time she did that she didn't come home till 2:30 a.m. Will be interesting to see, since she's been trying to be mom of the year, what time she comes home tonight. It's times like this where it takes every ounce of my strength and dignity to continue to stay on the right path. Seeing someone enjoy life like they did nothing wrong and escaping almost any consequence, and even the people that know what she did, talking to her like everything's okay and normal. Like I said in a previous post, I thought I had lined up everything perfectly to snap her out of it with friends and family, but they just didn't have the endurance and went back to normal after a few months. I know cheaters do win sometimes, actually probably a lot, but I'm convinced that in the long run, they won't. My whole life, even when I couldn't see the light, I kept going. I kept doing what I was doing to achieve goals, results, the promised land. I just need to keep doing that because I know it will be okay. I look at this like a movie where it's good versus evil. After the character introductions and success in the beginning, the middle, all the way till the end, is filled with adversity and looking like all hope was lost and the good guy wasn't going to make it or save what he needed to. But she never gave up. And in the end is when the hard work and perseverance pays off. I don't see the light now, but I know it will be there waiting for me in time, waiting for all three of us. Got to admit, dudes, this week has been a downer. Focus hasn't changed, Pat hasn't changed, but just seems like one of those weeks that I was due for. Maybe just worn out, and when I get down, I start looking for answers to solve and get back on track. In this situation, it could obviously be a million things, but it all points back to her being able to do whatever she wants without a second thought, without remorse, and like nothing's wrong. She beat her last time out on the town after a hockey game on Tuesday. Instead of getting home at 2:30 a.m. in December, this time it was 3:45 a.m. The next day she tries talking to me yet again about working on splitting assets, without the lawyers being involved so we can save money. She starts going into a few talks about if she does anything to offend me or says something wrong to please let her know that I can go out and do things by myself and she won't look any differently on me as my role as the father. Then she asks if I feel the same about when she goes out and does things without the kids. I really don't answer and just start to drift into doing something else, and she busts out, "Do you think I'm a bad mother?" Next morning, she talks to me again as I'm walking out the door. She got an invoice from the lawyer about some basic work they had done and it cost $600. She is like, "See how much this cost? We need to work on things together so we aren't charged for stuff like this." I say nothing and just look at her. She then busts out, "Are you really okay with paying $600 for stuff like this?" I then said, "Have a good one," and walked straight out the door and headed to work. In my head, I'm thinking, are you kidding me? Of course I'm not okay with this. We shouldn't be spending a damn dime because we should still be married and not having to deal with the consequences of what you caused. But I just kept my cool and played it off. I think it stings so much now because the good guys essentially have to play by the rules and she doesn't have any and thinks nothing is wrong with her actions. My will has never let me down before, but in the struggle, there's always down days, weeks, etc. My comment, I would tell her directly, "Listen, we are not friends, buddies, or pals. You are the mother of my children and I will treat you with respect for their sake, not yours." Actually, her behavior is very typical as a continuation of her selfish behavior. The affair was selfish behavior, and a failure to admit responsibility is shifting blame to others or just fate. Sub and part 3 ending coming in a few hours.